A team that a lot of people aren't talking about enough is the Buffalo Bulls. Pete Lembo deserves a ton of credit for a 9-4 season in 2024. A new coach, a first-time head coach, and he did phenomenal work with this program. That being said, they are ready to make some more noise in 2025. We'll take a look at the top 10 players coming back for this team, as well as look at the schedule and talk about what we think this team could do in 2025. If you don't know LJ Henderson's name by now, you're probably missing out. Over 1,000 yards last year, averaged 5.3 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns. This is a program that's had some really exciting running backs. Everybody obviously remembers Jared Patterson, but LJ Henderson is the next guy up. And honestly, he's set for an even bigger year in 2025. He has a good offensive line coming back, a quarterback that could complement him really well, and he is someone that a lot of people still don't know. Now, the running game finished 52nd last year, so there's definitely room for improvement. And like I said, with the talent they have coming back and some of the talent that they brought in, it feels like they're on their way up, not down. Losing Sean Dolak was always going to hurt this defense, but having Red Murdoch back was huge. 156 tackles last year, 17 tackles for loss. You're looking at a guy who knows exactly what to do when it comes time to making plays defensively. Knows how to mop up any gaps that are left up front. So you would like to see the defensive line take a step forward. And I think when you look at areas for improvement, obviously on the defensive side of the ball is where you start. This is a group that finished 62nd against the run, finished 109th against the pass. Success rate, they were 77th. So I think if you're looking at one stat they could probably to improve on, it's that. Tackles for loss, they finished 81st. So getting more penetration, being more disruptive up front is where things start. But you know that you have a linebacker in Red Murdoch who's a first-team All-MAC selection from last year that knows exactly what to do and how to limit the damage. And even though you don't have Sean Dolak coming back, you still have a really good combination at linebacker with Red Murdoch, and Deion Crawford is coming back. Now, you talk about someone who was extremely disruptive for this team. Deion Crawford knows what to do when it comes to that category. 59 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. Very disruptive player for this team. 6'1", 235 pounds. So has the ability to get around the edge, has the ability to make a disruptive play. And you're feeling really good with the linebackers you have coming back. A combined 32 tackles for loss and 10.5 sacks between those two. And again, if this defensive line takes a slight step forward, they do less work, and if anything, they become more disruptive. Before we continue with the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and take a look. It takes a couple of seconds. It helps the channel grow. We've seen tremendous growth in the last couple of years, and we'd like to keep that going. Doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers, so we're hoping to hit that goal this year, and you make that happen. But let's get back to the video. We talked about the offensive line, and one of the big reasons for what the optimism for more success in 2025 is Trevor Brock. 6'6", 310 pounds, a second team All-MAC selection, a veteran player who comes with 13 games, started last year, started all 13 games for this team, a team that surprised a lot of people, and he is back. This offensive line returns quite a bit of talent, and Trevor Brock is probably the best of the two. You can make the argument that the other guard, who we'll talk about in a little bit, is the better of the two, but the fact that you have two big-time players coming back means good things for a new quarterback and means really good things for LJ Henderson. We talked about the defensive line and its need to be more disruptive. The one player that they do have coming back that we know can be disruptive is Kobe Stewart. Second team All-MAC selection, 40 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks. So you have a trio of guys up front that you feel good in terms of being disruptive, in terms of making plays and improving a defense that if it takes a step forward, you could see better results in 2025. You could see a better team as a whole. Now, what that means for their schedule, we'll see, but this is a group that has the ability to improve upon the numbers that they put up last year. Tyler Doty is the other guard that we were talking about before. Second team All-MAC, 6'5", 338 pounds. A very experienced player, a guy who knows what it takes to win football games, and 13 starts last year, and a big reason why the running attack was so lethal. And Brock and Doty deserve a ton of credit for LJ Henderson's success. Obviously, Henderson did what he does best, but it's the offensive line that deserves a lot of credit. And we don't talk a lot about offensive lines, specifically MAC offensive linemen, but the fact that they have these two coming back, like I said, it gives you plenty of room for optimism if you're a Buffalo fan. One area where Buffalo probably needs to improve upon is the passing attack, with teams now knowing what Al-Jay Henderson is capable of. The passing attack that finished 110th last year must take a step forward. Victor Snow does come back after a pretty good year, 651 yards, 11.8 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. Who else is going to step up? We're not quite sure yet, but this is a group that has a lot of potential. Victor Snow is one of those guys, maybe looking at an even better season. It all comes down to his chemistry with the quarterback, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But this passing attack, if it takes a step forward, that makes life easier for Al-Jay Henderson. That makes life easier for the quarterback. And this team, like I said, there are certain little things that they can do to get better. And if they do that, you feel like this is going to be a really exciting year once again. Quarterback that we've been mentioning is Taquan Roberson, the former Kansas State and UConn transfer. Comes in, didn't have a really productive year at Kansas State last year, obviously with Avery Johnson taking over that starting spot. He wasn't going to play a ton, but in 2023 at UConn, had a pretty productive year. 2,075 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Didn't have the greatest rushing stats, only 120 yards on 46 carries for 2 touchdowns. So he's very capable runner, but I think you're looking for optimism as a passing attack, because you know that your quarterback maybe is able to move the ball down the field a little bit more. Guys like Victor Snow will like that. Guys like Al-Jay Henderson will like that. But Taquan Roberson feels like he's a good fit, familiar with the area, comes to the MAC, a very talented player, and this staff really likes what they have in him. Going back to the defensive side of the ball, if there's one group that benefits from the talent up front, it's the secondary. And Marquise Cooper is someone who could have a big year because guys like Kobe Stewart, Red Murdoch, and Deion Crawford are getting to the quarterback. Had a pretty good year for himself, 55 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions. So he knows what to do when the football's in the air. He had a very talented player, and there's not a ton of big time playmakers in the MAC at wide receiver that he's necessarily going to have to worry about. There are some, don't get me wrong, but this is someone who has the ability to make big plays, and some of it is going to be because the guys up front are making life miserable for the quarterbacks throwing the ball his way. Another player in that secondary is Solomon Brown. Solomon Brown is another player that, again, a lot of people are going to focus on the production up front, but a pretty decent season. 66 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 6 passes defended, 1 interception. You'd like to see your safety maybe not make as many tackles, but again, some of that has to do with taking steps forward. And like I said, this is a group that, while it does have plenty of talent, definitely has stuff to work on. They can be more disruptive. They can give up less big plays. They can have a better success rate. A 42% success rate is not going to cut it. They're going to have to improve. And like I said, the MAC is so volatile every single year. If you want to have the same success, you have to find some way to take a step forward, because last year's team and this year's team are not going to be the same. New players have to step up. New players are coming in, and the secondary feels like it's in good hands, but they can't be complacent. Now, looking at the schedule, I put the over-under at 5.5. I don't know what the quarterback position is going to look like. Taquan Roberson could be very good. Not quite sure. But this is a schedule that, honestly, you could see another 9-3 season. When you look at what they have to do, a trip to Minnesota right off the bat, going to be a loss. I don't see them competing with the Gophers at all. St. Francis, Kent State, and Troy should be 3 wins. So you should be 3-1. The UConn game, very interesting. UConn is a very good team. They're looking for a 10-win season this year, as is Buffalo. So that'll be a good measuring stick for where they're actually at. Then you get into MAC play, and MAC play is anyone's game, honestly. When you look at what this team did last year, they finished 9-4, but didn't compete for the conference championship. So that tells you exactly how difficult, I should say, it is to win this conference. So while Eastern Michigan seems like Buffalo's in a better place, Eastern Michigan can surprise people. Chris Creighton does a great job there. UMass comes in for the first time. We'll see what they look like. They're going through coaching turnover. Akron is not bowl eligible, so they probably have nothing to lose, but they also might not have their head coach by this time when they play He might be heading out the door. Joe Moorhead's had a real rough time there. Bowling Green is going through a coaching change. Central Michigan is going through a coaching change. Miami, Ohio, and Ohio to finish the year, that's a tough 2-game stretch. We'll see what those two programs look like. But this is a really exciting time if you're a Buffalo fan. And right now, I it's really hard to put win totals because I don't have any. So I'm trying to predict what it might be. 5.5 honestly feels a little bit low, but that's why I put the ceiling at 9-3. I think that if certain things don't improve, specifically the things we talked about defensively and the passing attack offensively, then a 4-8 season is definitely a possibility. I don't think that it's a strong possibility, I will say, but it's definitely a possibility if everything goes wrong. But I think you're closer to that 9-3 record than you are 4-8. And it's going to be really fun to see how these new pieces gel with the core guys returning and what Buffalo can do to repeat or even get better on a surprising year last year.